It's Whispering Storyteller here. Hope you're well and getting all Christmassy. This is another festive whisper, and I thought I would read another child story. And it's the Christmas classic, the timeless Christmas classic, The Snowman, which is a bit of a tradition here in this country and normally plays every Christmas on TV. We often forget that this was originally a book by a gentleman named Raymond Briggs. This version here isn't the original, it's kind of a more condensed version. The original didn't have any narration at all, but I think they've created it. This is the book of the film, basically. If you haven't seen The Snowman, I would really recommend that you watch it. You'll probably find it here on YouTube. It's an enchanting little film, and it's about 30 minutes long, and there's no sound. Basically, it's all music, and of course it features a very haunting and beautiful soundtrack, Walking in the Air. Okay, let's have a look at the story itself. So I hope you're comfortable. Okay, I'm going to try and go up to each pane, each picture as I'm reading it. When James woke up, it was snowing. He got dressed as quickly as he could and raced downstairs. "Don't forget to put on your boots," said Mum. James tugged on his Wellingtons by the front door. He couldn't wait to be out in the wonderful whirling snow. In the garden, James had a brilliant idea. He'd make a snowman. He rolled a snowball until it was almost up to his waist. He packed more snow around it until it was as tall as a man. He then rolled another snowball for the head. The snowman's shape was perfect, but there was something missing. James rushed into the house and Mum gave him a woolly scarf and a hat. James found a tangerine for the snowman's nose, and lumps of coal for his buttons and his eyes. He then drew a line for his mouth, and the snowman was finished. By now it was getting dark. Tea time, Mum called. James said good night to the snowman and went slowly back indoors. Then it was time for bed. Mum kissed James good night, and soon he was fast asleep. When the grandfather clock struck 12, James suddenly woke up. He went to the window and looked out at his snowman. He looked very lonely. James put on his dressing gown and tiptoed down the stairs. James opened the front door without a sound. When he stared out in the moonlit garden, he could hardly believe his eyes. The snowman moved. He took off his hat politely and bowed. He then started to walk towards towards the house. James shook his hand. "Would you like to come in?" he asked. The snowman nodded. "We must be very quiet," warned James, "or my parents will wake up." The snowman sat down in the armchair in the living room and stroked the cat who was sleeping by the fire. Meow! His hand was freezing. The cat hissed and spat. The poor snowman nearly fell out of his chair with fright. James couldn't help but laugh. The snowman liked the Christmas tree. He could see his face in the shiny decorations, but he was too close to the fire and he had started to melt. James took him into the kitchen and he opened the fridge door. The snowman looked much happier until he turned on a tap. Whoops! Hot water isn't good for a snowman. He soon cheered up when he saw a little snowman on the Christmas cake. The tiny model just looked like him. The snowman found the fruit bowl and tried on some new noses. He put on a pomegranate, a banana, even a pineapple, but still the tangerine was his favorite. James took the snowman upstairs. "Shh, this is Mum and Dad's room," he whispered. The snowman waited to have a closer look. Careful, James just stopped the snowman from waking his parents. Dad's false teeth were a surprise. The snowman slipped them into his mouth and grinned. "Let's have a dressing up game," whispered James. The snowman tried on Mum's makeup and her best hat. He put on Dad's trousers and braces and smoked a pipe. "Try some of Mum's perfume," said James. Oh no! The snowman puffed Mum's perfume spray up his nose by mistake. He could almost feel an enormous sneeze coming. Ah, 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 achoo! James took the snowman to his own room. The snowman found a musical box, wound it up, and danced. Whoops! He trod on a roller skate and fell over a cloud of balloons. "Are you all right?" asked James. The snowman nodded. "Come on," cried James. "I have another idea. We can go for a ride." They tiptoed out into the open air, where a dark tarpaulin covered an old motorbike. The snowman started the engine and turned on the headlamp. "I'll hang on tight," said James, and the two of them roared off through the snowy countryside, watched by an owl and some inquisitive rabbits. When they came back to the garden, the heat of the engine had made the snowman's legs feel weak. James took him to the freezer in the garage, and soon the snowman's legs were as good as new. They walked back to the house, and the snowman suddenly stopped. He seemed to be remembering something. He gripped James' hand and began to run across the garden, bounding, jumping, leaping, until James found that they were flying. They flew for miles in the icy air. "This way," cried some of the snowman's friends. Soon they came to the coast and a dark, stormy ocean. A friendly wave waved his tail and blew at them a little greeting. Then land was in sight again. Where could they be? All around them was a great forest of pine trees laden with snow. They landed silently on the icy wilderness. James could hear music ahead. The snowman pushed aside some branches, which led him to a clearing. All of the snowmen in the world had come to a party. There was delicious food, and a band was playing. The snowman began to dance, with James in the middle. James danced with snowmen all over the world, from Scotland, from Texas, from Switzerland, and even China. But his own snowman was best of all. They whirled and swirled until they were giddy. They tumbled over in the powdery snow, and James gave his snowman a big hug. Guess who else came to the party? Father Christmas. "I've got something for you, James," he said. "Come with me." Father Christmas rummaged through the presents. "This is the one," he beamed. It was a beautiful blue scarf. "Oh, thank you, Father Christmas," said James. The snowman pointed to the moon sinking over the horizon. It was time to go. Once again they flew through the frosty air until they saw James's house below. Skimming over the hedge, they landed back in the garden. James hugged the snowman. "This has been the best Christmas ever," he whispered. Then he walked back to the house, looking over his shoulder at the snowman. The snowman waved goodbye. When James looked out of his window, he saw him standing in his old place again. Tired and happy, James fell asleep. When James woke up, he remembered his wonderful adventure. He rushed downstairs, ran past his parents having breakfast, and opened the door. The sun shone warmly on his face, but where was the snowman? An old hat, scarf, some lumps of coal, and a tangerine were all lying on a pile of melted snow. Had it all been a dream? James felt the soft wool of the scarf in his dressing gown pocket. you didn't think so. Well, I hope you enjoyed the snowman.